I'm Lindsay. Welcome to Dawn. Don't look back. These are the words that two angels spoke to Lot in the story about Lot and his wife in the book of Genesis in the Bible. They were really important words. I recommend you go and read the story of Lot. It is scandalous. It's actually quite disturbing. I would caution it before you read it, but it's definitely worth a read. These words, don't look back, were said to Lot because he was able to have an escape route out of the place where he and his family lived, in a place called Sodom. And the problem was with this place is that God was really displeased with it. Like, he was getting so upset and disturbed by the things that were going on in this town, the way the people were behaving. And so God sent two angels out to come and to destroy this town. He was so upset with it. Go and read this story, like I've said, but just in this moment, we're going to focus on Lot and his wife and the conversation that went on between the angels and Lot. So God sent these angels to destroy the town, and he had this conversation with Lot, and they give Lot, his wife and his daughters, safe passage out of the town, that they would be able to escape before the destruction came. And so Lot and his wife and his daughters all escaped from Sodom just in time before it was destroyed. But they weren't really that quick on leaving, so much so that these two angels literally had to drag them by the hands to get them out of the town of Sodom. And so on the way out of the town, the angels gave them some really, really clear instructions. They said, flee for your life. They said, whatever you do, don't look back. And they also said, do not stop at any point on your way out of the town. So they were really clear and really concise. So off Lot went with his wife and his two daughters, and they were escaping from the town. The problem is that Lot's wife didn't manage to escape because she stopped and she looked back. And what happened is she was turned into this pillar of salt. Now, there's lots of theologies about what that means, but it means that that was it. That was the end of Lot's wife, and she looked back. So that makes me think, like, why did she do that? Like, why would you look back when two angels sent from God has told you to not look back, but she did it anyway? Was it kind of, I just want one last look. I just want one glimpse back, because that's where she lived, that was where her life was, that was where she felt safe, that's where her friends and her family were. But she just took one last look back. Or maybe it was because when we say things to people who, maybe you're walking on a high bridge and you go, don't look down, then the first thing you want to do is actually look down. You can't help it. And I think maybe because the angels had said to her, don't look back, she couldn't help but resist to actually go and look back. Maybe she didn't hear the instructions clear enough. Maybe she was in such a flap about leaving that she didn't even hear what the angels had said, maybe. But I would think at that time, if you'd been visited by two angels, you'd be listening to what they were saying. I think that there has been times in my life when I have definitely looked back. In fact, I know there have been times when I have looked back. But I also know that in these times, God clearly said to me, Lindsay, don't look back. As a young woman, I went looking for love in all the wrong places. And I reached absolute rock bottom until one Easter Sunday service on an evening at church that my mum went to. I had this very real encounter with Jesus, and I met him there, and I asked him to be fully involved in my life. I asked for forgiveness for the things that I'd done, and I committed to him there and then. And that was amazing. But the problem was that after that had happened, I had this horrendous weight of guilt and shame of the things that I'd done in my past. And I can remember having this conversation in my mind and Jesus saying, don't look back. That is in the past, and that's where it needs to stay. There is nothing there for you. There's been times in my life as well when I have experienced extreme heartache and trauma. And in those moments when you're at your most painful and everything seems to hurt, and it takes a long time to recover, it takes months, sometimes it can take years. It's been only after those times when I've again felt God say, Lindsay, don't look back. There's nothing there for you now. I have healed your hurt. I have healed your anger. Keep your eyes on me. Keep looking forwards, but don't look back. More recently, when we felt that God was telling us to move in every way possible, move house, move church, move jobs, everywhere. Everything was like a complete reset, and that was very radical for us. It was scary because it meant leaving everything that we knew, everything that felt comfortable to us, everything that felt like familiar and family and safe and all those things. God was actually asking us to move out of those situations, and that was really difficult at the time. In fact, I think we can relate as a family very much to Lot and his family in the fact that they had to walk away from everything that they knew that was familiar because God had asked them to move. But we also spent a lot of time what felt like wandering in these desert plains, which is where they ended up walking into. And I think in those moments when we're in this weight, this gap in the middle, it almost feels a bit like an airlock. If you will, if you're on a submarine or a spaceship or something like that, and you know you've got to come through one door, and then you have to wait in this airlock before the next door opens. And we certainly felt like that. And I think maybe that's how they felt, that this door had been closed, but they didn't know what was through the next door. And so they were stuck in this place. And it's in those moments, it's really hard to resist going back and walking back through the door that you've just walked in through. And then you have to sit in the wait, to wait for that door to open, to wait for the next thing to come your way. And again, in that situation, when I felt like we are in this way, God was stuck in the way and we don't know what we're doing next, that God yet again said to me, don't look back. Resist the temptation to go back to what is familiar and to go back to what you know, just because it's familiar and it's comfortable. And it's actually a lot easier to go back than forward sometimes. But don't look back. I think that God leads us from things that aren't very good for us. Even they might have been at some point, but I think there's a season for things, and I think God likes to lead us out. Sometimes He gives us a gentle shove. Sometimes it feels like He has to literally take us by the hand and take us out of a situation to go into something new, because we don't recognise that we need to change where we are. It's also hard to trust that there's good times ahead, especially when you don't know what those good times are. But if God is calling you to step into something new, then I've definitely learned to trust that call, because we have no regrets of any of the choices that we've made to step forward and step into God's will and God's purpose for us, for me and for us as a family. During some of this time of moving, God gave me a passage in the Bible, and it said, taste and see that the Lord is good. And I couldn't really understand what that was, but I think this is similar to this situation, because quite often we can just be living off porridge, and it's easy and it's reliable and it's comfortable and it's what we know. But what we don't know sometimes is there's this like amazing roast dinner waiting for us that's like the best food you've ever tasted. And because that porridge isn't giving us exactly what we need, but this roast dinner or whatever your favourite meal is, what you can imagine, that is waiting for you, that's what we're missing out on by sticking with the what we know and not stepping into what God is actually calling us to step into. I want to encourage you in these next few moments, as we take just some time to reflect and to listen to what God is saying today. I want you to consider Lot's wife. Are you hanging on to something just because it's safe and it feels comfortable, even though you might think this isn't good for me, but it's what I know. I don't want to have any change. Maybe consider what that is. Maybe it's just because it is familiar. Let me say this, set your eyes on Jesus. Like, even though it feels scary to move on and to change, ask God to help you to step into the next season of your life and where he's leading you to. Maybe like us, you feel a little bit stuck in the airlock or stuck on the desert plains, not actually seeing what's over the hill or what's over there next, but you've chosen to step out of a situation and you just can't see what the next step is yet and you're in the wait. Then ask God to give you just some patience and some peace and some perseverance to keep going and the strength to keep walking and putting a foot in front of the other, because his promises are true and there will be something waiting for you on the other side. Maybe an opportunity has come your way and you're just like, I don't know if to take it or not. Maybe you're at this junction like we were at, where it's like, do you go left or do you go right? Do you take it? Do you not take it? Then ask God for confirmation. Pick up his word, see if there's something in there that just encourages you or reinforces the situation that you're in. Ask someone to pray with you. That's what we did when we were making big decisions. We asked for people to stand with us and pray with us to bring us confirmations and words of encouragement. So just ponder on that in the next few moments of what that might look like. But let me leave you with this. Don't look back. Just look forward. The past can teach us many things, but we don't have to dwell there. It's good to learn from things that we've experienced, but we don't have to stay stuck there. Don't look back and miss an opportunity that God has prepared for you just because it feels a little bit scary to step out of your comfort zone. And don't look back if God has offered you safe passage out of a situation and out of a place that you know isn't good for you. Step into that. Step into that relationship with God where you're on his path that's a good path to be on. So let me encourage you to just reflect, to consider this story that we've read about and we've heard about in Genesis with Lot and his wife and his daughters. But remember this today, don't look back.